Our agricultural acquisition regulations, 402 definition words and terms, 4021 definitions, acquisition official means with an individual designated with delegated with the authority to manage extra of the acquisition function responsibility. Agency head of the agency, secretary, agricultural, the department, deputy secretary, assistant secretary, administrator, the head of the contracting authority, HCA, the meaning of the official with the overall responsibility for one or more USDA contracting activities. Mission area, senior contractual officials, meaning with the official designated senior procurement executive or head of the contracting office specifically responsible for the individual mission area of the contracting activity. Senior procurement executive, meaning with the agency official of appointed such for the head agency, the pursuant of the executive order 1293-1 with the director of the contract procurement has been designated the USDA senior procurement executive. Okay. 4.3 Improper business practices and personal conflicts. Alright, subpart 4031 safeguards, 403101 standards of conduct, USDA procurement officials, uniform standard established with government ethics, Title 5 CFR 2635 standard ethic codes of the employees of the executive branch, as far as 30104 procurement integrity, procurement official with the other employees who recover the advice concerning the application standard of the conduct of the acquisition issue shall obtain the opinions of the USDA Office of the Ethics and Ethics of the advisory officials of the agency. 404 Administrative Information Matters. 404 Administrative Information Matters. Subpart 404 Government Contract File with the Contract Officer shall insert the clause Agar 452-2047 the modification contract closeout solicitation contract simplified acquisition procedures. Subpart 404-13 Personal Identification Verification. 404-1303 Contract Call with the Personal Identification Established Policy Review with the requirement for 52-2049 with the Contract Officer shall insert the clause containing language similar to the Agar 452-2041. All covered solicitation contracts included as far as 52-2049. Alright, publicizing contracting actions. 405 release of information. 404 release long range acquisition estimates. 405-404-1 release procedures. Head contracting agency head of designee pursuant with the FARS 5-404-1. Subpart 4055 paid advertisement. 405-502 authority vested for the head contracting officer of the authorized publication paid advertisements in newspapers delegated with the power of redelegation mission area senior contract officials of the mission area with a senior contract official for the redelegation of this authority shall be written. Alright. .406 Competition Requirements. Subpart 406 2 Full open competition after the exclusion sources. 406-202 Establishing maintaining alternative sources of the SP Senior Procurement Executive authorized to make the determination pursuant with the FAR 602A. Some of the determination finally required with the FAR 602B. Subpart 406-2 with the other than full and open competition. 406-302 the circumstances permitting other than full and open competition. 406-302-7 the otherwise authorized by law. Authority Section 472 with the National Agricultural Research Extension of the Teaching Policy with the Act of 1970 authorized Secretary of the Agriculture to award contracts without competition for the research extension of the teaching programs in food with the agricultural science. Limitation of the authority limited to these over the instance where it can be determined the contracting of full open competition best interest for the government necessary to the accomplishment of the research extension of the teaching program. Therefore, the contracts under the authority of the Act shall be awarded competitive basis with the maximum practical extent. Whether the full open competition is not deemed appropriate, the contractor officer may written on a case-to-case basis the accordance procedure with the FAR 60303 and 304. 407 Reserved. 408 Required Sources and Supply Services. 408 Acquisition, Printing, and Related Supplies. 408-802 Policy with the Director of the Office of the Communication of the Designated with the Central Printing Authority, the USDA with the Authority representing the USDA with the Joint Committee with the Printing with the Government Printing Office of the other federal state agencies on all matters related to printing. 409 Reserved. 411 Describing agency needs. 411 and 1, selecting, developing, and retrieve the documents. 411 and 101, ordinance use precedent, the requirement of document, circle, Office Management Budget, Circle A119, establish the federal policy requiring the use of voluntary consent to stand with the government unique statement except for the inconsistent laws otherwise impractical. Any head contracting authority authorized to submit the adapter amendment to the Office Management Budget A119 voluntary statement with inconsistent laws otherwise the head contracting agency might be submitted the determination of the Office Management Budget National Institute standing with the technology and come with the circulated with provided senior procurement executive. Support 411 and 2 review of the maintain requirement documents. 411 and 202 of the maintenance standardization document. Recommendation of the standardized document or submitted to the senior procurement executive will coordinate the submission of the recommendation cognate preparing activity. 411.6 of the proprietary allocation. 411.602 the general of the USDA of the authority issue the related to the orders of the under section 202 executive order 13603 of the defense production 1950 as amended with the DPA title 50 U.S. Standard Code 4501 intent sequence. .412 acquisition of commercial items. So part 412.3 solicitation provision contract clause for the acquisition of commercial items. 412.302 with the tailoring provision clause for the acquisition of commercial items. Head contracting agency authorized to approve of the waiver in accordance with the FAR 12.302C with the approve of the waiver either of the individual contract class or the contract specified with the approve of the waiver the supporting documentation should be incorporated with the contract file. Alright, 413 simplified acquisition procedures. Subpart 413.3 simplified acquisition methods. 413.302 purchase order. 413.302.5 clauses contractor officer shall answer for the clause of the Agar 452. 204.70 modification contract close out all solicitation contracts. Simplified acquisition procedures. Part 414 sealing bidding. Part 414 sealing bidding. Opening bid with award contract figure 14404 rejection bid 4144041 cancellation of invitation after opening. Acquisition official level above the contracting offer the authorized record the determination over the FARs 14441C and E1. 414.407 mistaken in bids. 414.4073 other mistakes of the Ford award authority to make with determination for 14.4073 A, B, and D delegated without power to redelegation with a head contracting authority to make the determination for 14.4073 C delegated with the contracting officer determined pursuant with the FARs 14.4073 have the current for the office of the general counsel. 414.4074 mistake after the words mistake if a mistake in the bid disclosed after the award a contracting officer shall make the final determination according with the provision for 14.407B and C shall coordinate each proposed determination with the office of general counsel. Such coordination shall be minimum because if the contracting officer provided proper determination in the case of the office of general counsel or for comment. 414.409 information to bidders. 414.409.2 award classified contract disposition classified information with according with the Department of General Regulation 3400.001 series in accordance with the direction of the USDA Office of the Homeland Security Personal and Document Security Division. Alright, Part 415 contract by negotiation. Part 415.2 solicitation receipt with a proposal information. 415.204 contract format. Head contracting authority authorized to extend with the contracts with the uniform contract format. So part 415.3 source of selection. 415.305 proposed evaluation mission area with the senior contract office of responsible establishing proceed with regarding a leave the cost information member the technical evaluation team per FARS 15.305.84 subpart 415.6 unsolicited proposals. 415.604 agency point of contact mission area essential senior control contracting official of the responsible establishing point of contact control unsolicited proposal. Unsolicited proposal must be formally submitted by the agency way of the point of contact. Alright, 416 type of contracts. So part 416.1 selecting contract types. 416.102 policy contractor officer shall insert the clause of the Agar 452.2047 the modification contract closeout solicitation contract for the other cost reimbursement contract types. 416 2 fixed price contracts, 416.203 fixed price contracts, economic price adjustment, 416.203.4 contract clause, economic price adjustment clause based on cost index labor and material may be used under the condition listed in the FARS 203.4D with the head contracting officer approve of the Consolation Office of the General Counsel. Section 416.6 time and matters labor hours letter contracts, 416.603 letter contracts, 416.603.2 application head contracting agency authorized to extend period of defining letter contract required in 416.603.2 with extreme cases of determining writing with such action in best interest of the government. 417 and 418 reserved. 419 small business programs. Part 419 policy, 419.201 general policy, 419.201.71 small business coordinators. Business area senior contract officials shall designate with a writing small business coordinator with the number of coordinator that shall determine the mission area senior contracting office officials sufficient for the number of contract officer and contracting officers. 419.201, 72 reports of the Small Division Disadvantaged Business Utilization OSDBU Director should be the director of the submitting report concerning the USDA progress, achievements, and procurement preference programs. So part 419 certification, competency with determining responsibility, 419.602 procedures, 419.602.3 for resolving the difference between agency and small business administration and head contracting authority authorized to appeal issuing with a certificate of competency to the small business administration provided by the FARS 19.602.3a. Part 420 reserved and 421 reserved. Part 422 application of labor laws, government acquisitions. 422 with application of labor laws, government acquisitions. Subpart 422.3 contract of work hours, safety standards, etc. 422.302 liquidated damage, overtime, mission area, central union contractor official will authorize a new review determination of liquidated damage if due to section 104C with the contract work hours, safety standards act, the recommended remedial action if appropriate in accordance with the FARS 22.302C with the contractor subcontractor may request the administrator of the determination of liquidated damages by written notice of the contractor officer of the contracting officer shall permit Forward appeals liquidated damages determined in the mission area senior contract of offices officials. Subpart 422.4 labor standing with a contract involving construction. 422.404 construction wage requirements, state wage determination. 422.404.6 modification wage determination. Mission area senior contractor official with the authorized process of the request that extends with a 90-day period of war with a bid opening provided in the FARS 22.404.6C6. 422.406 administrative enforcement. 422.406.8 investigation head contracting authority authorized to submit report of violation agency in accordance with the FARS 22.406D8D. Subpart 422.8 equal opportunity employment. 422.804 of affirmation action programs. 422.804.2 construction mission area with the senior contracting official should ensure that each of the contracting officer awarding non-exemption construction contracts maintain concurrent listing with the covered geographical area submitted to the affirmation act requirements specify goal of men and or women that is covered in construction trades provided in FARS 22.804.2b. 422.807 exemption head contracting authority over exemptions on all parties requirements that Executive Order 1124.6 pursuant to the FARS 22.807C. Subpart 422.13 equal opportunity for veterans. 422.1305 waiver the Assistant Secretary Administrator will be authorized to make waiver the determination. FARS 22.1305B with the contract consent with the national security. The waiver should be prepared with the Assistant Secretary Administration signature submitted with the missionary senior contractor official of the senior procurement executive with the referral to the Assistant Secretary Administrator. Subpart 422.14 employment of worker with disabilities. 422.1403 waivers Assistant Secretary with Administration authorized to awaken the waiver to determination of the FARS 22.1403A and FARS 22.1403B with the concurrent with the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Federal Contract Compliance Programs Department of Labor. The waiver shall be prepared with the Assistant Secretary Administration signature submitted with the missionary contract official with the Senior Procurement Executive with the referral to the Assistant Secretary of Administration. Alright, 423, environmental substantial acquisition material safety. 423, environmental substantial acquisition material safety. Subpart 423.1 Recovered Material Bio-Based Products. 423.107 Agency Affirmation Procurement Programs. USDA Affirmative of the Procurement Program. APP Policy with the USDA Agency State Office with the hereby established components of the Affirmative Procurement Program area with the USDA Contract Desk Book Part 423, Subpart 423.3, the Notice of the Radioactive Materials 423.301, Requirements Head Contracting Authority shall establish a system with the instruction of identify with the installation facility radiation protection offer. Support 423.6, Non-Radioactive Materials 423.601 Requirements. 424 Reserve, 425 Foreign Acquisition. Part 425 Foreign Acquisition, Subpart 425.5 American Recovery Reinvestment Act by American Statute Construction Materials 603 Exemption. Secretary without power redelegation has the authority to make necessary determination to authorize award contracts in accordance with FAR 25603B. Alright, 426 Other Social Economic Programs. Other social economic programs, Part 426.5 Drug-Free Workplace, 426.505 Suspension Payment Determinant Contract Debarment. Any suspension activity, the Senior Procurement Executive will submit with a request of waiver of the agency head with a recommendation action for 23506E. 427 Reserve, 428 Bonds and Insurance. Agricultural Acquisition Regulation, Part 424, Bonds and Insurance, Subpart 428.1, Bonds and Other Financial Protection, 428.101, Bid and Guarantees, 428.101, Policy Youth. The Senior Procurement Executive may authorize class waiver of the requirement of the obtained bid guarantees as far as 428.101C, 428.106 Administration, 428.106.6 Furnishing Information, Headquarter and Contracting Authority. Other designated may furnish other certified copy of the bonds with the contract for which for the given in as far as 28.106.66. C. Requester may require to pay contest certification copy of the established department fee schedule of the records. Request Title 7 CFR Part 1 Subpart A Appendix A. Subpart 428.2 Sureties and other security bonds. 428.203 Individual sureties. Evidence of possible criminal fraudulent activity in individual security that shall be reported with the Office of the Inspector General. According to Department of Regulation 1700 of the Mission Area Senior Contractor Officer shall establish procedures to ensure the protection of the deposit securities and type listed in FARs 28.2041 through 28.2043. 429 Reserve, 430 Cost Accounting Standards Administration, 430 Cost Accounting Standards Administration, Subpart 430 Cost Accounting Standards Standards Program Requirements, 432.01 Contract Requirements, 432.015 Waivers, Senior Procurement Executive Order with the authority to further redelegate authority with the Cost Accounting Standard Board with the waiver of the application Cost Accounting Standards in accordance with the FAR 302.015, 430.202 the disclosure requirements, 432.02 the impractical submissions of security without power to redelegate authorized to determine in accordance with the Title 48 CFR 9903 202. 2. The disclosure statement, the practical description of the authorized award with obtaining with the disclosure statement, and 430.202.8 the subcontract disclosure statement, the secretary without power to redelegate authorized to determine in accordance with the Title 48 CFR 9903.2022 with the disclosure statement, subcontractor impractical description of the authorized award without obtaining with the disclosure statement. 431 Contracting Costs, Principles, and Procedures. Part 431 Contract Cost Principles and Procedures. 431.1 Applicability. 431.101 Objective. The Senior Procurement Executive is designated by the official authorized to give advance approval of the individual deviation concerning costs and principles. Senior Procurement Executive is designated by the official authorized to give advance for the class deviation concerning cost principles and coordination civil agency acquisition council. 432 Contracting Financing. 432 Contracting Financing. 432.001 Definition of Agent Contracting Financing Office other than the Office of the Requisition providing funding with the providing funding record keeping of the contracting action. head of the agency for those purposes, the part of the agency, meaning the exclusively secretary with a deputy check with a remedy with a remedy coordination official with the USDA with a remedy coordination official is the assistant secretary with the administration responsible official authority is the officer of the agency, the contracting officer with the responsible to ensure the adequate funds available to usable to intended purpose. 432.006 production suspension contract payments upon finding a fraud. 432.006 report 5 reporting annual report required with the FARS 32.0065 prepared with the senior procurement executive with the submitted with the secretary with the 90 calendar dates of the end of the fiscal year with the assignment of the secretary report is to be maintained by the senior procurement executive. 432.007 the contractor financing payment administrator senior contracting officers may prescribe on a case-to-case basis short period of financing payment. Support 432.1 non-commercial item purchase financing. 432.114 unusual contracting finance head contracting authority authorized to approve of the unusual contracting and financing. Support 432.2 with commercial item purchasing financing. 432.206 solicitation provisions contractor call with the responsible administrative liquidation provision whose new contractor may be transferred by the contracting officer. Subpart 432.3 loan guarantee, the defense production. 432.301 definition support agency. Guarantee agency is the head contracting agency and may not be re-delegated. Support 432.4 advance payment of non-commercial items. 432.402 head contracting authority and designated the individual responsible making finding determination approval of the contract terms concern. Advance payments. 432.406 letter of credit head contracting agency designated the individual responsible according with the Department of Treasury concerning the letters of credit. 432.407 an interest head contracting agency designated the individual may authorize on a case-to-case basis advance payments without interest of the contract types described in FARS 32.407 D 1 through 4 to sign with a determination finding supporting with the authorization included with the contract files. The senior procurement executive designated the individual may authorize advance payments without interest other than those described in paragraph A of this section. 432.412 contract clause decision alternates 1 and 4.3 FARS 52.232.12 may be supported by determination and finding. Subpart 432 contract funding. 432.703 contract funding requirements as clause of the Agar 452.232 70 limitation government obligation solicitation result in incremental fund fixed price contracts. 432.703 contract closing financial years. Funds appropriated to USDA may either the 1 year contracts to be performed in 2 fiscal years as long with the total amount of such contracts obligated in the year which funds are appropriated in Title 7 U.S. Standard Code 2209C. 432.70 770 USDA specifically fund limitation expenditure of the USDA application with the consultant services of the contract pursuant to 3109 Title 5 U.S. Standard Code limited with such contract expenditures are a matter of public record available to public inspection except the otherwise provided existing law, existing executive order issued pursuant to existing law, Title 7 U.S. Standard Code 2225A. Subpart 432.8 assigning claims. 432.802 condition written notice assignment of true copy of the assigned instrument are sent with the contracting officer rather the agency head FARS 32.802 E1 other copy distributed and directed as far as 32.802. Alright, protest, disputes, and appeals, part 433. 433 protest, disputes, and appeals. 433.1 protest. 433.102 senior procurement executive responsible with the coordinated profit of the bid protest lodged with the government accountability office. Subpart 433.2 with the dispute and appeals. 433.203 applicability assistant secretary administrator is authorized to determine applicability contract disclose disputes acts contracts with foreign governments pursuant with the FARS 33.203. 434, major system acquisition. Definition. Presumably the Office of Management Budget Circular number 811. The definition FARS 2.101 USDA system should be considered the major system identified with a major IT investment each pursuant to the USDA the Department of Regulation 3030.008. Definition major information technology investment with a non-IT acquisition cost estimated to be $50 million or more, or system regardless estimated acquisition lifestyle cost has been specifically designated with a major system USDA acquisition executive with a major information technology system executive system secretary of the administration and is the USDA acquisition executive of the major system acquisition of the other acquisition information technology. 434.02 34002 policy. In addition, with the policy guidance for the FAR 34002 for the other parts of FAR for the policy for the outline in Part 7 and Circular A11 and for the guidelines contracting with planning developing systems major otherwise. 43403 responsible the key executive of the USD, Secretary, Department Secretary, Undersecretary, Assistant Secretaries, individual group that participate in making forward decisions in each major system acquisition process, identification and the definition specifically mentioned needed to be filled with the relative priority assigned with the agency, the general magnitude of the resource to be invested, selection competitive system, the design concept to do advance for the test, demonstrate the phase of the authorized produce for the development of the non-competitive single concept system, commitment over the system full scale development and limited production, commitment to the system full production, chief of the engineering office of major information technology system executive acquisition information technologies, CIO is ensure the circular A11 and implemented USD activity management object for the circular A11 and realize the CIO, the chief of the information officer responsible to designate the program manager, major information technology system acquisition, designating the acquisition to be for the major information technology system acquisition, approve of the written charter of the project with the control system, each of the major information technology system acquisition. The Assistant Secretary Administrator will ensure the circular A11 and implemented USD with the management circular A11 with the senior procurement executive responsible to designate with the program manager each major system with a non-IT acquisition, designate with the acquisition major system non-IT acquisition, approve of the written charter of the project control system, each major system non-IT acquisition. Mission Area Senior Contract Official must ensure the compliance with the requirements of the Circular A11 FAR 34 and Agar Part 3434, ensure the potential major system acquisition brought in attention for the USDA acquisition exchange of the major information technology system executive as appropriately coordinated mission agent area program manager recommended qualified candidate for the designated of the program manager for each major system acquisition in their jurisdiction coordinated with the mission area program manager for the verify of the program manager full that they were responsible to discharge of their duties, cooperated with the Assistant Secretary Administrator of the Major Information Technology System Executive in implementing requirements of Circular A11, the Program Manager responsible for planning the execution of the major system acquisition, ensuring appropriate coordinated USDA acquisition executive of the Major Information Technology System Executive other than the USDA executives. 434.005 General Requirements. 434.005.6 Full Production Secretary and Secretary designating specific program is agency head of the pursuant FARS 34.005.6. Alright, Part 435 Reserve, 436 Construction, Architect, Engineering Contracts. 436 Construction, Architectural, Engineering Contracts, Agricultural Acquisition Regulations. 436 2. Special aspect of contract construction. 436.205 Statutory cost limitations. When it appears that the fund with insufficient to the desired feature for the construction of the contract offer to provide with the solicitation based with the item covered with the work and specified one or more with the additive of the deductible bid or progressively add or omit specified feature of the work and stated the word priority. Ultimately, the contracting officer of the main policy with the proceed with the fund FAR 17.2 with the option. 436.209 Contracting, Construction Contract, Architectural Engineering Firm's head contracting authority authorized to approve the contract construct project whole and part with the firm with the design project inclusive of the subsidiaries and affiliates. 436.213 Special Procedure for the Ceiling Bid Contract Construction Contracting. 436.213 Solicitation Notice Authority to waive pre-solicitation notice construction requirement proposed contract expected to exceed simplified acquisition threshold restricted head contracting authority. Part 436.5 Contracting Clause Scope of the Subpart 500 Subpart prescribed for the clause for the insertion UDSDA solicitation contract construction dismantling demolition removal of the improvement destruction of the contracting officer shall use the clause of the prescribed of the contract succeed with the simplified acquisition threshold contract officer may cause for the contract amount expected to be below the simplified acquisition threshold. 436.570 The emergency responsible for fire assurance liability contractor officer shall issue the clause Agar 452.236.7 the emergency response fire suppression liability integrated resource service contracts award with the Forest Service cause Agar 452.236.7 and the emergency response fire suppression liability obtained with the non-IRSCs. Subpart 436.6 Architectural Engineering Services. 436.602 Selection Firms and Architectural Engineering Contracts. 436.602 Selection Criteria Mission Area Senior Contractual Officer will be authorized to approve use design competition under the condition of the FAR 36.602 1B. 436.602 Evaluation Boards Mission Area Senior Control Officer Official will establish written procedure providing pertinent ad hoc agricultural evaluation boards prescribed in FAR 36.602. 4036-6025, shortening selection process of the contract not exceeding the simplified acquisition thresholds. Mission area senior contracting official may include either both or procedure of the FARS 36605A 36025A and B procedures evaluation boards 436603 selecting data on appraising firm qualification. Mission area senior contractor official with mission area with the require agricultural engineering service to establish receipt to comply with the requirements FARS 36603 436-609 contracting clause 436-6091 design finding limitations for the head contracting agency appoint designee to make the determination FARS 36609 1C1 appointment to be one no lower than the official authorized to commit the program funds of the work being acquired by the contracting officer advised with the appropriate technical representative make a determination FARS 36609 1C2 or 3. Alright, 437, service contracting. Agricultural Acquisition Regulation, Part 437, Service Contracting, 437, Service Contracting General, the 437-104, Personal Service Contract, USDA have the following specific statutory authority to contract personal service, within Section 706A of the Organic Act of 1944, authorized contract person with the organization temporary basis without regard to civil service compensation classification standard 5 of Title U.S. Code, Chapter 51, Subchapter 3 of the Chapter 53, provided there is no expenditure made unless specified, provided with the applicable operation. Expenditure should not exceed the limitations prescribed by the appropriation, and B, the Title 7 of the United States Code 1627, the authorized Secretary of Agriculture to contract and technically qualified person, firms, organization perform research, inspection, qualification, classification, technical, special service without regard to civil service laws for a temporary basis with a term not to exceed 6 months in the fiscal year. Subpart 437-2 with advisory and assistance services, 437-204 guidelines determine availability of personnel, head contracting authority authorized to request the non-government evaluated the proposed evaluation. Each decision supported with a written determination form for the FARS 37204. Alright, Part 438 through 441 reserved, Part 442 through 444 reserved, Part 445 government property. Agricultural Acquisition Regulation, Part 445, Government Property, 445-1 General, 445-103 Mission Area Senior Contractor Officer with the authorized to make determinations charging rent on the basis of under the charges and clause the FARS 52-245. 52-245-9 prescribed in FARS 45-103-85. Subpart 445. 3. Authorizing use of rental government property 445-301. Use and rental mission area senior contractor authorized make determination providing facility contractor prescribed in FARS 45-3015. The request for non-government use of the plant equipment is described in FARS 445-301 submitted by the head contracting authority senior procurement executive officers for approval. Alright, 446 through 448 reserved, 440 and Part 449 termination of contracts. Agricultural Acquisition Regulation, Part 449 termination contracts, Subpart 449-5 contracted termination clause, 449-501 general. Use special purpose termination clause pursuant to the authority of FARS 449-501 shall be approved in advance by head contracting of the agency. Alright, 450, extraordinary contractual action, safety actions. Safety Act. Extraordinary contractual actions and the Safety Act. 450 Extraordinary Contractual Actions and Safety Act. Subpart 450 Extraordinary Contractual Actions. 450-101 Definition approval of approving authority used as means of the Assistant Secretary Administrator. Secretarial level used as means of parts of the Secondary Administrator. 450-102 Delegation Limitation Exercise Authority. 450-102-1 Delegation Authority Assistant Secretary Advisor Administratively authorized to approve of the actions under FARS Part 50 Exempt Identifications Act listed in FARS 50-102-1D, which must be approved of the Secretary without power of a redelegation. Alright, 451 Reserve, 452 Solicitation Provision Contractual Clauses. 452 Agricultural Acquisition Regulation, Part 452 Solicitation Provision Contractual Clauses. Alright, subpart 452.2 with a protection provision clause with a 452.204.7 the modification contract closeout prescribed with the Agar 404.804.413.3025 and 416.102 of the following clause modification contract closeout month and year upon contract closeout contracts utilizing anything other than cost reimbursement. Unliquidated funds amounting of $1,000 less remain contract with the contracting officer shall issue unilateral modification. The obligation contractor will receive the copy of the modification will not be required with a provided signature of the CO. The contracting officer shall immediately proceed with the contract closeout with completion of the period performed with the receipt with the acceptance of the supplies and with the final payment upon contract closeout with the contracts utilizing the SAP with the unliquidated funds more than $1,000 remain in contract with the chief contracting officer shall issue the bilateral modification obligation when the contractor will receive the copy of the modification will require the provided signature of the contracting officer may also request the contract release for the claims by completed without the contractor, although not required without the contractor orders using the SAP. If the bilateral modification release of the claims are not returned within the contracting officer within 60 days, the contracting officer shall release the modification unilateral, proceed with the contract closed out upon completion of the period with the performance, receive the acceptance of the supplies and service of final payment. Upon contract closed out of the contract, utilize anything of the cost reimbursement unliquidated funds more than $1,000 remaining in the contract. The contracting officer shall issue the bilateral modification for the obligation contractor will receive the copy of the modification contract release for the claims will require the provided signature for the both forms. If the bilateral modification release for the claims not returned within the contracting officer within 120 days, the contracting officer relieve the modification and unilateral proceed with the contract closed out upon completion. Period performance receive the acceptance and supply of the services and final payment end clause. 452.204.71 personal identification verification of certain of contractor employees is prescribed with the Agar 404.1303 and insert the following clause. Personal identification contractor employed with a month and year with the contractor comply with the personal identification verification policy pursuant to the United States Department of Agriculture, the Directive 40620.002 series. Issued with the USDA Directive 40620.002 required by the exclusion of the contractor employed with the contracting officer with an oath with the contractor the contractor must appoint with a representative of the managed complying with the personal identification verification substitute with the Directive 4620002 with the maintain with the list of employees eligible for the USDA link pass required with the performance of the work with the personnel with the maintaining sufficient work with the remain with the contractor employed with the pay bar with the government perform with the works should they be found ineligible to do what they have lost the USDA link path with the failure to maintain with the sufficient workforce for the employees eligible for the USDA with the link path that may be ground with the termination contract with the contractor ensure with the call for the contract with the subcontractor required the routine unaccompanied physical act of the federal contractor control facility and routine unaccompanied to the acts of the federal controlled information system personal identification verification sponsor the contract with the designated program point of contact which must in case with the COR with the otherwise especially with the contract personal identification verification sponsor will be able to receive the contractor identification information from hours to the day to be added by the chief contracting officer for the hours of the day to be added by the contracting officer for the address for the registration added by the contracting officer. The government will notify the contractor if there's a change of the personal identification verification sponsor for the other address of the office for the hour registration. However, the contractor responsibility meets all of the aspects of the paragraph C, D, and E. 452.232 limitation government obligation prescribed by the Agar 432.703 and serve the following card limitation government obligation contract line items listed below incremental funds of these items the contracting officer insert with the negotiation the total price presently available the payment allotted to this contract line items description total contract value funded amount uniform amount funding data any line items and allotment schedule set forth in paragraph J with the below with the items identified in paragraph A with the not fully funded with the contractor with the perform up to the point with the total amount of payment with the government with the including reimbursement of costs of them with the termination items of the government conveying to the approximate the total amount with the current allotted to the contractor that did not authorize to continue with the work on the items beyond the point the government will not obligate in an event with the reimburse the contractor more than the amount with allotted to the contract with regards to any of the contractor clauses entitled with the termination conveyance with the government total amount of the pay with the government event with the termination applicable the contract line item with the conveyance with include with the cost on profit estimated termination settlement of the cost of the items not withstanding the date specified with the settled allotment scheduled in paragraph J with the contract will notify the contracting over the writing at least 30, 60, 90 appropriate days prior with the date when any of the contractor best judgment of the work will be at a point of the total amount payable to the government, including any of the cost of the termination conveyance, with approximately 85% of the total amount of the current life of the contract performs the applicable items to notification of the state with the estimated weight when with the point where it will be estimated the additional funding if needed to continue with the performance application line item for the next schedule of the date allotment of the funded and identified. Paragraph J, mutually agreed upon substitute to the date notification shall be divided with the contracting over the estimated amounts of the added additional funds to require the timely performance of the items funded for a subsequent period specified of the allotment schedule within paragraph J, but the otherwise agree with by the party for the certification of additional funds are not with the allotted to be identified with the contractor notification agree with the substitute of the day of the contractor's office of the terminate with the items of the additional have not been allotted pursuant with the clause with the contract until with the termination of the conveyance of the government. When additional funds allowed with the continuous performance contract line identified in paragraph A above, the parties will agree with the period contract performance coverage for the by the funds provision in paragraph B through D, but they apply with similar additional allotted funds with agreed substitute of the date and contract modified accordingly. E. If such solely by the reason paid for the government with the additional fund of the dates indicated below with the amount sufficient with the timely performance contract line item identified in paragraph A through with the contractor current additional cost of delayed performance work under this contract additional funds are allotted equatable adjustment with the made in the price and prices, including the appropriate target billing with a ceiling price where applicable the items of the type of delivery with the failure to agree with the equatable adjustment with hereon with the dispute with the concerning the question with the fact with the meaning of the clause intended disputes. The government at any time may prior with the determination all additional funds of the performance contract line identified in paragraph A with above the termination go provisions does not limit the government under the clause of the default of the termination cause the provisions limited to the work allotment for the funds of the contract line item set forth in paragraph A but that no longer apply with the contract to fully expand with the grid guard over the rights obligation of the parties concerning equatable adjustments negotiated in paragraph E and F. H. No effects in the rights for the government to terminate with the contract pursuant to the clause of the contract until with the termination conveniency for the government. Nothing here should be contributed the authorization voluntary service of substance otherwise pursued. Prohibited in Title 31 U.S. Standard Code 1342. With the parties agree with the government will be allotted with the contract according with the following schedule: an execution contract money, month of the day, year money, month of the day, year money, month of the day, year money. End of clause. 452 through 3670 emergency fire suppression liability as Agar 433650 with the following clause with the Federal Forest Service integrated resource service contracts optimum with the non-IRSCs or integrated resource service contracts. Emergency response fire suppression liability month of year with the contract responsible regarding the emergency with the direct with the contracting over the contractor show with the government to temporarily use the employee with employment over the work of the emergency anticipated restricting the firefighting with the general scope of the contract with equatable adjustment with the temporary use of the employee with equipment made under the changes of 452-43-4 with the contract responsibility for fighting with the contractor firefighting of the contractor under the provision of FARS 52-236-9 with the protecting existing vegetation structures with equipment show utilities improvements such as immediately extinguishing all fires works other than those fires due to part of the work with the contractor may be liable for all the damages at all costs incurred with the government labor substance equipment supply with the transportation deemed necessary to control the suppress of the fire set with the cover of the contract and contractor agent subcontractors employees subject to the fire classification business fire subsection C. Fire suppression costs, contractor obligation costs of the fire suppression vary according to classifications of all fires as follows. The operation fire with the operation fire with the contractor, operation neglecting negligent fire with the contractor with the reimbursed the war, serve with the touch of the cost of each of the operation fire with the maximum dollar amount with the contractor over the insert of the amount of the cost contractor action supply with the equipment expand with the use of suppressing any such fire otherwise provide with the request of the fire with the credit towards such the maximum contractors to actual costs exceed the contractor's maximum obligation stated above the war serve with the reimbursement of the contractor for the excess. Negligent fire call with a negligent fall with a contractor operation not limited to one call with the smoking by a person engaged with the contractor operation during the cause of the air employment during the rest lunch period of the contractor failed to comply with the requirement of the contractor result of the firing, starting with the permits of fire to spread with the damage of the cost of the neglecting of the fire shall be borne by the contractor. Other fires in contract area. 4. Service shall pay with the contractor firefighting rate with the common age for the fire to age rate for the equipment and personal furniture for the contractor air for the request of 4. Service of fire on the contractor over the other fire of a negligent fire. Contracting responsible for the notification in the case of the fire of the contractor shall immediately notify the government any fire cited with the vicinity of the work site of the performance of the contractors employed with the agent, subcontractors employed with the agent perform the contractor's operation connection with the fire responsible for the contractor's obligation shall be same as performed by the contractor. State law of the contractor shall not be relieved in terms of the contract any liability of the United States fire suppression recovered to actions based on the state law except that such for the cost resulting in operation fires amount due the contractor fire expenditure operation fire shall not be withheld pending state settlement of any such claims and is action based on state law. End clause. And that was agricultural acquisition regulation 452 solicitation provision and contractual clauses. Alright, part 451 reserved. 452 provision contractual clauses. We read that. 453 for 469 reserved. And then 470 commodity acquisitions. Part 4, some of the commodity acquisitions. Scope of the part sets forth the policy procedure, the requirements governing procurement of the agricultural commodity with the Department of Agriculture for the under the Trail of the Nutrition, National School Lunch Program, Emergency Food Assistance Program Committee of the Supplemental Food Program, Food Distribution Program, and the Indian Reservation over the Domestic Food Assistance Program under Title II of the Food Peace Act, with the Food Progress Act of 1985, the McGovern-Dowell International Food Education, Children Nutrition, and International Food Assistance Program. 407, 470, 101, definition of the following definitions is commingled product with remains with grain, rice, oil seed with the pulse with the other similar commodity with the product, such commodity with the product is normally stored with a commingled basis, and such of the many of the commodity with the product produced in the United States cannot be readily distinguished from the commodity product not produced in the United States. Foreign Agricultural Service of the FAS may be seen as such agency located with the Department of Agriculture free alongside ship with the meaning of the terminal seal with the cells or fulfills the obligation to deliver the goods have them been alongside with the vessel with the quality with the letters name ports of the shipment with the buyers bears all costs of the risk of the loss of the damage governed with the moment. Grantee organization, and that means for the organization from the receipt of the commodity of the United States Agency for the International Development under Title II of the Food Peace Act with the U.S. 7 U.S. Code 1721 intent sequence from Foreign Agricultural Service under Food Progress Act of 1985, the McGovern-Dowell International Food Education, Children Nutrition Program, other international food assistance programs, ingredient mean, supplies vitamins, micronutrient, dissonance, preservatives, additive of the agricultural commodity product, lease contract, last date was specified for the ocean, free freight contract, carried goods, must over the contract performance, low land cost, meaning with respect to the agriculture procured, acquired with a part of the low aggregated cost of the acquisition, such of the product with a foreign destination. Multi-port or multi-trip voyage charter means the ocean carrier with the carrier will stop in two or more parts in the discharge of the cargo. 47102 with the policy USDA policy that procedure set forth on far supplement of the Agar of the procurement of the agricultural commodity with the product with the agricultural commodity used in the domestic, internal, and national food assistance nutrition programs, electronic submission, maximum extent for the policy of the electronic submission, some solicitation related documents for the respect of the acquisition of agricultural commodities related with the freight, with however the extent of the solicitation level of the submission of the paper hard copy format, in addition with the included information in electronic format, a description of such submissions. Information submitted on paper to hard copies form shall prevail and lift the electronic submission state for the specific existing writing in terms of specific electronic submission rate with respect to the acquisition freight shipment of the agricultural commodity with the product with the agricultural commodity provision far with the included part 47 that should be utilized with the various type of the services of the same may include with the multi-trip voyage charters. 407 and 47 and 103 for the United States origin agricultural products for the international food assistance provided with the Title 47 U.S. Standard Code 1713-2 with the 1736-01A, the commodity of the product with the agricultural commodities required with the international feeding development program products of the United States origin product should be considered the product with the United States with the containment of the ingredient with the product used for the United States if the ingredient is proved in the United States commercially available in the United States for reasonable forms of the domestic sources products for domestic food programs of the commodity with the product with the agricultural commodities with the acquired with the USDA with the domestic food assistance program with the product of the United States except for the otherwise required by the law consider the stuff of the product with the grown process with the otherwise prepared sale with the distributed scoop of the United States except for the risk of the ingredient defined above with the ingredients non-domestic source of the will be allowed with you live with the United States with the product with such ingredients not otherwise products of the United States commercial available in the United States at fair reasonable prices for domestic sources commingled product except that is provided in paragraph C2 with this section of the commingled product with the should be considered with the product with the United States with the offer of the can establish the offer should be inventory at the time of the contract with the commodity with the product or with the offer that obtained with the during the contract performance period specified with the solicitation combination thereof the sufficient quantity for the commodity of the product was produced with the United States and filled with the contract being awarded unfulfilled fulfill contracts with the outfit for the entered providing such commingled product with the United States. The extent of the USDA would determine the commodity with the general commingled as one that can be readily stored and identified preserved basis to the respect of its core country or of origin. USDA may require the commodity procured with shall be 100% of the United States origin. Product delivered from animals with respect to the procurement of product derived from animals. Legislation set forth the specific requirement applicable to the country with the animal was bred and raised, slaughtered, and further processed. Alright, 47201 acquisition commodity freight shipment of foreign agricultural service programs. We'll cut the tape there.